everybody, and welcome back to another episode.
Welcome back, friends.
All right, I've been waiting for this episode for all day. I am so excited.
You've done a lot of research on this. Today, we're going to be talking about the history and origin of jump scares in horror media, or any media, really.
hmm So, James, what I get started? What do you think of jump scares? Like, how do you feel about them?
Now, a lot of people find them distasteful, and a lot of people don't like them. I actually rather like jump scares.
hmm
Sometimes they can get a bit gratuitous. And I've always thought that the ones where it's not actual danger, like the animal type jump scares ones, were a little but
All
there's
the
honestly,
fake outs.
yeah, honestly, jump scares have their place. I think they're good.
Yeah, a lot of people actually do seem to agree with you due to the research I've done. So, I
Yeah,
mean, I I'm on and off the fence, I guess, about jump scares because I love them when they're done well.
yeah.
But, because I suffer from James, I suffer from anxiety. So I'm always like super kind of like paranoid about things. I'm like, oh, it's gonna come get me. Oh, it's gonna come get me. And then I'm put off so hard when it actually does. Like, so I remember how I was during Skinamarink. That was a battle.
Skinner was a masterful execution of any use of jump scare.
That movie made me fear for days. In a good way though.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I realized that, and I was talking with you, James, earlier, that we haven't really done like a heavy research video since like our history of horror nights, which was like pretty like about a year ago, I think.
yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, I think like August of last year. So I'm like, oh, we should probably do something. Why not make it fun
Yeah,
and subject myself to 4 hours of research?
yeah, you had fun doing it.
Oh, I did. I enjoyed it. Like, it gave me an excuse to watch a bunch of fucking, like, interviews of, like, film people and, like, all kinds of, like, cool shit, like, little horror shit. It's great. I loved it. It was the best utilization of my time off from work today. It was great. Not complaining.
Not complaining at all.
Not at all, not at all. So, yeah, so we're just gonna, so yeah, I did some research as we seen. We're gonna kind of talk about jump scares, the different types of jump scares that there are, why they works, why they don't work. We're just gonna kind of go into some deep stuff about jump scares that you probably have never heard of before. So, because it's cool, why not? I love looking into horror techniques and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun here.
Yeah. So, also for those who are interested, to kind of help me research for this video, I use a shit ton of sources. One in specifically, called where'sthejump.com, and I'll link it below.
It's
But
a very
this
useful
website,
source.
yeah, it's honestly amazing. Like, you can look up whatever movie you want. It tells you if it has jump scares, how many there are, and it also provides you with the timestamps in which those jump scares happen and what's in them. It's super cool. They're super thorough.
It's a very useful thing if you're very interested in how, like, if you're just like a little nervous about a movie and you just want to know where the jump scare is so you can prepare for it. Go right over there.
Mhm. Have you used Where's the Jump? I feel like you've maybe used it once. Was it for Skin and Mark? I can't remember.
No, you used it for Skinner Rick. You said
Okay, okay.
you were freaking out in the corner.
I was like, for the record, okay. I was legit Dave's was having the greatest time of his life. I was too, but I was like, it was very different because he was in his bed eating Oreos, drinking tea, and I was like wrapped up in a fucking snuggie, like shaking like a Scooby Doo character. Like, it was awful.
I had to convince you to keep the movie going.
Wait, I was gonna come back to it at some point. I just needed a break. It was insane. Honestly, I need to rewatch that movie. But
We should, we should.
yeah, I'm almost curious to see if me plugging my ears would help. But then again, that's lame to my standards. I don't trash people who do because I my first few years of going to Halloween Horror Nights, I had to go through the mazes with my ears plugged because it was honestly my anxiety was so bad. Now I just don't give a shit because I've been going for so long and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I had a hard
So
time at first too.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just kinda have to get used to, but it's not bad, I think, once you get yourself comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but so I guess we'll go ahead and get started because we have a lot of information to go through.
Yeah, a lot to talk about today.
A little bit. So you're probably thinking about, okay, what is a jump scare? How does it differ from a regular scare? So, if you will, a jump scare is, purposely shocking or jolting. And, it makes you jump. It's supposed to kind of like, be, you comes in, gets you, and it pops right back out.
Yeah.
It's usually paired with like a really loud sound, which I get. That's basically kind of like the pinnacle of a jump scare because you can watch a movie, at least in my opinion. I don't know if anyone else has this, but I can sit there and watch a movie and something really shocking happens on screen. But if it doesn't have sound or it doesn't work, it doesn't get me. Sound is what always makes me jump.
Yeah, sound's a very effective thing in making you jump. Even just hearing a sound on its own can elicit a pretty good jump sometimes.
Yeah, like I don't know if you knew James, but in like all throughout my years of public school, um I hated the fire alarm because You know, it's scary. The loud noise makes you jump. It's awful. Which
Yeah,
I
at
mean,
first
like,
it does make you
that's
jump.
the point,
It
but
definitely gets your attention.
it does. But dude, I would suffer in class so often, especially on the days where they said that they're going to be where we were going to have a fire drill that day. Dude, I was miserable.
You sit there
I was
sweating the whole time.
like literally, I was sweating. I would literally like plug my ears the entire time, and like I would like look at it whenever I had to take one of my hands, my ears to write something down. Dude, it was awful. And of course, the days that we did in the classes that it occurred in, I would always sit back farthest or, closest to the fire alarm. Oh god, it was awful, awful, worst time of my life.
I never had too much of an issue with the fire alarms. I do remember one time it not going off in my classroom. It was funny because there's a specific a couple days before I'd been playing Mario Kart on the DS,
Mhm.
and this is in like elementary school,
Yeah.
and Mario Kart has this one specific song that has kind of like the it sounds exactly like a fire alarm in the background going really well.
Oh,
So I'm sitting there just daydreaming in the middle of class, and I'm hearing that. I'm just thinking, "Oh yeah, remembering that song." And then a teacher opens the door. The sound gets louder, and she goes, "Hey, the fire alarm's going off. You gotta get out of here."
that's so funny. It's like, "Oh, what? Oh?"
That's how we found out that the fire alarm did not work in our classroom, and they had to
Yeah,
go repair it.
it just didn't work. It's like, not today."
Yeah, but that's why you test it.
Yes. Just in case shit like that happened,
Yeah.
because of course it does. So, yeah, so also a little fact for you, hun. So research has actually been conducted on that exact thing, that you're talking about. And it turns out that sound is super crucial in initiating our animal reflexes that trigger actions such as fight or flight.
Yeah, it's about half of our one of our senses. It's a very big part of our senses.
Yeah, sound is super, super important for us as animals. So yeah, you can imagine that it's very different when you hear a loud sound versus seeing just something scary happen on screen. And I
Oh
did
yeah.
share this graph with you, hon. But Where's the Jump actually made a graph, and it shows the average number of jump scares in, I believe they took about 250 horror movies across different time periods. So the graph starts in the 60s and it shows up an average, I believe, 2.6. But actually, the first recorded jump scare in film is in the 1942 movie Cat People. Great movie, by the way. I fucking love it.
What's the
But
movie's name? Cat People?
yeah, 1942 Cat People.
Hmm.
A little fact about me, I seen a lot of weird fucking shit because in late middle school, early high school, I actually had a bunch of film teacher kind of things. I did stuff like outside of school, and I would go to like film series, have like special showings at school of like these movies. Um, and I really got into Criterion weird artsy art house movies that way. So I've seen a lot of weird shit. Yeah, cat people being one of them for that exact thing. I believe it's like a 70-minute long movie, and it's about a woman who is a sexually frustrated werepanther. It's great.
That's a deranged type concept for a movie.
I know. It you gotta see the movie. It's fantastic. It's great. Yeah, the jump scare in question is in a scene where the main character is following her husband's assistant home. Now, I don't believe the husband was specifically cheating. I think he was more freaked out by his wife's behavior and started to kind of confide in this other person. But I
Okay.
guess I'll just have to watch the movie again and will we be proven wrong? But yeah, the scene's already super tense, and it's cutting back and forth between the two ladies' feet, and suddenly this super loud bus just kind of rolls into frame to pick up the assistant. Have you ever heard of the term the Luton bus?
So this is where that term comes from. An actual bus.
Yeah, so Luton bus is also if you haven't heard of the term the Luton bus, it's also called the fake out jump scare. That's where that came from. It's named after the producer of Cat People, Val Luton. And it's used to describe a type of scare where there's this tense atmosphere, but then something innocuous scares you. Like it's nothing that's supposed to be scary. So, like, think of Bill Murray in Zombieland, Jonesy in Alien, Attic in The Exorcist, or that stupid fucking jump scare in Slender Man.
Oh yeah. I feel like that doesn't quite count because they were really trying with that one. They just fucking screwed up and put
Well,
anything on screen.
yeah, well, a tree branch isn't. That's the thing. It's something that's not supposed to be scary. A tree branch you typically wouldn't find scary.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose you're right.
I feel like hey, it's on the screen, so I'm counting it. It's still a stupid jump scare. I'm sorry. No
Yeah, it's
amount
a
of
pretty bad jump scare.
no amount of anything is going to convince me otherwise.
Just a stinger and that's it.
Do you have any thoughts about that jump scare in Slender Man, hun?
It's I didn't remember it happening the first time I watched it, but what I assume happens in there is that there is something in frame. They just frame it so poorly that it's very hard to see in the split second we get to see it.
Yeah.
It's
Wasn't that
just
like a date? Didn't you go on a date for that movie?
yeah, I brought someone on our first date to that movie. She had only seen like Disney movies before that. I was laughing at a bit where their faces were getting all distorted because it just looked kind of goofy, and I looked over and she's like sinking backwards in her seat, looking terrified.
Well,
Oh boy.
hey, we have each other now because I'd laugh. I remember, I think he even said that like the viewing experience was super different watching it with somebody else and then watching it with me because I just sat there fucking laughing at the entire time how dumb it was.
Yeah, Slenderman was a very it's one of those movies that is I don't like it in the sense that it's
It's
not
so
an
bad
ama
it's good.
like, I like it because it's terrible.
Yeah, it's so bad it's good.
And I'm not even saying, like, bad bad, I'm saying just, like, it's kinda goofy to watch.
It's so goofy.
It's just a little silly.
So goofy, I love it.
They did
Um,
a good job, like, even the design of Slenderman looks good.
oh yeah,
It
no,
just
for sure.
a lot of things came together just not to make it a very good movie and just make a lot of sequences feel, like, just funny instead of being scary.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes of that movie is like that goddamn fucking Peter Kane dog training intro and like the end of the movie is like, you know,
You know?
it's so you know.
That Peter Kane dog training guy if you guys have never taken a look at that guy's channel, glance over at it. It's,
Have
I
you
don't
seen a
know if
dog
it's
have you
parody.
seen a dog
I
man?
don't I don't know if it's parody or not, or if this is just how the fella is, but he's just rambling about, like, cryptids on his property and this fucking
Yeah.
raven that he hates.
Could it be a dog man?
He's an interesting guy. He still posts pretty
Hey,
often. I see him live on Instagram, like, all the time.
dude, do not disrespect my boy Peter Kane.
Yeah, he's great.
Do not slander my boy, okay? But we don't take Peter Kane dog training slander in this house.
I wasn't trying to slander him.
You know I'm joking. Try to be
Yeah.
funny, James. Let me have this moment.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, get it, get it. So, but yeah. Anyway, after Cat People, we don't really see jump scares in film for a while. Not until Psycho in the '60s, believe
Really?
it or
Psycho
not.
was the next one?
Yep, so this is where we jumpstart our on their graph, you can see we have the '60s, where we specifically in Psycho, we see that scene where the detective is getting slashed in the face by Norman Bates, and he's falling down the stairs in that weird backwards shot, and, like, that scene of his mom getting turned around and being, like, all bony and skeleton-y.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only movie recorded from the '60s that has jump scares as Psycho. The '70s don't have them as much. They're used pretty sparingly, but, of course, all of the movies that we do get them in are super iconic. One of them, of course, being Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that
Texas
scene where
Chainsaw,
Franklin dies, yeah.
yeah, that's kind of like my favorite older jump scare that I've seen in a movie is that as Franklin getting chainsawed.
I know, dude, that's such a good jump scare, though. Oh my god, it gets me every time.
So stop, stop! I hear something.
It's so good. That entire movie's fantastic, but
Oh my
like, literally,
fucking
every
god!
time I watch Texas Chainsaw and I see that scene where Franklin gets jumped, makes me jump every time, not even a question.
So I was just glanced at the IMDb page for Psycho.
Mhm.
I scroll down, more like this, The Pianist.
Pianist?
It's a Holocaust movie.
Oh, I don't think that's
Also like this, Back to the Future.
whoa, I don't think
What?
that's right.
How do either of those? How are either of those similar to Psycho?
I don't think that they are, but, I mean, I don't know, maybe people like I don't know. Maybe the same audience likes them, I don't know. I'm not sure how IMDb does things, honestly. It's it's
That
interesting.
that's pretty funny.
A little bit. That is actually very funny. Thank you, IMDb, for being you. Don't never change. Um, oh yeah, another '70s movie that I wrote down as having jump scares is Carrie with the ending of her hand coming out of the ground.
Was that another older movie?
Carrie?
When did Carrie come out?
Carrie came out in like sometime in the '70s, 1970, not 1979. I know 1979 is Alien. Uh, Carrie, when the fuck did that movie? 1976, so a few years before Alien came out.
It's kind of weird to think about the fact that horror movies as we know them are really pretty young still.
Yeah, they're definitely well, I wouldn't say that because there are, like, horror movies dating back to, like, the 1920s.
Yeah.
Because you have, like, the classic Universal monsters. Um, I think but believe it or not, I believe the first actual horror movie that's recorded is I'm gonna butcher this, but it's like a 3-minute short film. I think it's called Le Manoir de Diable, which came out in 1896.
Was it French?
It is. It is, called The House of the Devil in English.
You said it was 19 what 6?
1896.
1896. Wow. But yeah,
Yeah,
I was
so
saying
yeah.
like horror movies as we know of it are pretty young still, only being like
Oh, yeah,
basically
like
coming into like only
yeah,
basically coming out in the 60s.
yeah, I would what era would you say modern horror started? Like, what would you consider to be modern horror?
Well, I actually think we're in a bit of a different phase from horror. You see, we had the classic horror phase in the 20s,
Mhm.
and then we had the phase of kind of stuff like where we were just getting into slashers that started like right with Texas Chainsaw and was like mainly in the 80s.
Yeah,
But then that moved away, and we're currently in an era where people really like to use psychological mind trip horror way more often.
yeah. Don't
I
forget,
think
like, the 2000s of, like, the supernatural too.
yeah,
That's a
they had the
big thing.
supernatural. They had the gorier films that came out where people started just making outright violent films for horror, which
Oh, yeah, our torture porn era.
yeah, torture porn. Yeah, I still personally really like torture porn movies. I don't understand why a lot of people seem to dislike them.
I
I like
think it's more of, like, the 'cause I like torture porn as well, but it has to be in a very specific context, like, It has to be fictional for me to be, because if it's,
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
too real, I feel like that's just unnecessary, like,
Yeah, if it's too
which
real,
is
it's gonna
why I
jack it up.
can't. Yeah, which is why have no interest in watching, like, Serbian film, like, no
Yeah.
thanks, I'm good.
I just like my movies bloody.
Yeah, like, I like Saw a lot.
Saw's great.
Fucking
The
love the
first
Saw
Saw isn't
movies.
even very, very bloody. It's
No.
pretty tame.
Yeah, which
Um,
is shocking because that's not what you hear. That's not really when you think of when you associate when you hear the word, Saw, you think of, like, the worst, like, blood, gore, grossness, you know?
a lot of the stuff happens off screen. It's kind of a similar Saw is kind of similar to Texas Chainsaw in the way that a lot of the violence and like actual gore happens off screen.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of you imagining it, and which is the same type of thing that kind of happened with Texas Chainsaw, where a lot of the gore happens off screen. You don't get to see a whole lot actually happen, but people claim it to be this like horribly violent movie.
Yeah, which I feel like, again, because horror is also like that niche area in media where it's like you have a bunch of people that love it, but you also hear about a bunch of people that hate it and think it's like conjunction with the devil and how it should just be taken away and all that stuff. So you're
Yeah,
always going to have that form of media that's super unpopular, certain group of people, and how it's because how I've seen it and how I've seen it labeled is specifically when talking and referring to the horror genre is if it doesn't shock people, it's not doing its job.
yeah. Which is why I'm very happy about the director of Terrifier, really staying independent and making his films as what how he sees them instead of trying
Mhm.
to because he's passed up multiple like very very large offers that
Yeah.
would have made him living very comfortably, but he wanted to keep making the movie his way, and I really respect the hell out of that.
Super respectable. Absolutely. Because that's not very common now because everything's either attached like to like a company or like a big entity.
I've also heard
So
that apparently with Terrifier 3, they've been keeping paramedics outside of showings of it because people have been passing out so often.
I've heard about that. Yeah, like they're giving out like barf bags and stuff, and people are like passing out, leaving early. It's crazy.
I'm excited.
I need
I love extremely gory movies. I love
I
seeing
know
the
I
effect that go
cannot
into
wait to
it
see it. I cannot wait to see it in theaters. It's gonna be
because
fantastic.
there's always just so much passion that goes into it. Like with the Evil Dead, there when
Mhm.
they're making those horribly gory scenes, it's just there's a lot of passion that's gone into making it look good, making it feel good to watch, and just it's just important to me. I love seeing all of the, especially behind the scenes footage of them making that scary because everyone cheering after the thing finally goes off correctly.
I know, it's
Yeah.
awesome. They're like,
Like
"Yeah!"
there's a bit in Chucky in the TV series, in the 2nd season, where a character straight up fucking explodes, like, just explodes, blood everywhere,
Is this the
and
scene I'm talking about that I'm thinking of?
no, it's not that one.
Oh, it's
Uh,
not that one? Oh
I
my
won't tell
god.
you which character blows up, but they show him blowing up through every angle they possibly could have shown, and I just know that they were so excited about that.
That sounds amazing. Oh, I really everything that you say about the Chucky series, I love it. I need to see it.
The Chucky TV series is perfect. I love anything created by,
Fucking
Don
can't believe it was canceled.
I love the fact that Don Mancini, stuck with the series and continues to stick with the series. Yeah, they fucking canceled the 4th season, and but throw out that little hashtag save Chucky. Come on, get it together. Please get some more support for it. Show 'em we want it back, because I want it back.
Did they ever say a reason why they was script?
I don't know. I haven't actually checked. Let's find out. Why did Chucky get canceled? Apparently, high production costs is what people are speculating.
Really? It's always the fucking production cost, and they're gonna replace it with some shit like fucking Furry Force 2 or something like that.
What the fuck?
Nothing against furries, by the way. But they always, like, get rid of the good stuff and then put in, like, a low budget, not as good show. It's like, "Come on. Don't do this to us. We deserve better." But, yeah, so, switching gears a little bit. So where's the jump.com actually notes that only 70s movies, which by the way, according to our graph, has an average of 5.6 jump scares, they're noticeably jumpy. Like the let me stand corrected. The only notably jumpy movies that they have noted is Halloween, The Exorcist, and Alien.
Those are
Now, you
pretty
know
good
how much
ones,
I
yeah.
fucking love Alien. I
Yeah,
know, big movies.
those are some heavy hitters right there.
Yeah, like that fucking jump scare with Dallas is one of my favorites. Like every
Yeah.
scene in that fucking movie is great.
My
But dude,
favorite
that
scene in
Dallas jump
any
scare, oh my god.
my favorite scene in any Alien movie is in Aliens, where they're huddled in that room using the motion detector, and they're coming in, they're reading inside the room, but they can't see them. Then one of them slowly pushes open the grate up there and sees like hundreds of them piling at them. That's my
Dude,
favorite
that
scene in any
made
Alien
me
movie.
so tense, dude. Oh my god, that was awesome.
I love that bit.
Such a good scene. But yeah, like literally Alien has the best scares. Like they're so fucking good. Like
Hmm.
literally almost every scene in that movie is memorable. It's it's so good. Switching
It's
out my
just
tea real quick.
an amazing movie.
So fucking good. All right. So yeah, switching off because I can talk about Alien for hours and we don't have the time to do that. Nor do people want to hear because we've already had an Alien episode. We don't need to talk about Alien more, which we need to fucking talk about Alien more. Wait, we need to stop. All right, so the 80s. So if we go back to our amazing graph provided us by where's the jump? We get an average of 9.5 jump scares per movie.
It's gone up a
As
whole
you can
bunch there.
s Yeah, as you can see, this is like we see a huge noticeable spike in the jump scare count. This is our slasher area where all of your characters are getting killed suddenly. So this is like our Nightmare on Elm Street, our Friday the 13th, The Thing, American Werewolf in London, Evil Dead, The Shining. All those movies are taking a hold, and oh my gosh, does it have a gripe hold on people. These people and their slashers.
Oh yeah, slashers got real popular right around that time.
Mhm. What's your thoughts on slashers, actually, now that we're here?
I actually I like certain slashers, although a lot of them wound up being I don't know.
Easy?
It's just they felt a little cheap after a while.
Yeah, especially, like, the redos, like, especially, like, the sequels. Like, the Friday the 13th is has to be probably I know it's a classic, but it has to be one of the cheesiest, goofiest movies I've ever seen. The first one was it's the first one, it's a classic, it's like, "Okay, this isn't horrible," and then the sequels, you watch the sequels like, "Wow." It's just my
Oh
opinion.
my
I still
gosh.
love them, but it's more like it's not my favorite movie I've ever seen, or my favorite series of movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So,
I like some slashers. It's just it's a little it got a little tired after a while.
yeah, it's more of like all that stuff is like, it's kinda like this is where we kinda start to kinda see an increase of the jump scares, like we said, and, I think a big reason why people are so burnt out on slashers in this time moving onward is that just they heavily rely on jump scares. They're very common, and they're just being super overused.
And that's when it kind of messes up jump scares for a lot of people. Is they a lot of people grew up watching that type of stuff, and they assume that
Mhm.
they're all just cheap tactics, just like bam, and then bam, and then bam. They aren't really trying to scare you anymore. They're just trying to make you. It's like throwing. It's like walking up to your buddy and just repeatedly poking him in the ribs and trying to be like, ah, I got you. Ah, I got you. You flinched.
Dude, that fucking pissed me off if anyone just did that to my I hate when people fucking mess with me like that, it's awful, I hate it.
Yeah.
So,
It's
that's
like
what it
that's just
feels like.
yeah. It's not funny, it's not scary, it's just annoying at that point.
Yeah, it's the personification of fucking annoying. It's a personification of an old slasher jump scare.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so Taking a look at our graph again, we see that the 90s drops down a little bit. Our graph is showing us an average of 7.9 jump scares. So at this point, we are moving away from slashers, but this is where we get movies like Scream, which I think is essentially funny because Scream is parodying slashers and scare
Yeah,
tropes that were popular in the 80s and gradually become so overused that as you were just talking about. And because of these parody like movies, like when we talk about like Scream, Scream is such a huge game changer in the horror industry because it brings so many different things that no one's ever dared to do and it makes them popular. So again, because of these parody-like movies, we further cement jump scares and their specific types as being cliche and not creative. So the 90s have a bit of a harder time with these due to the stereotypes and the reputation of jump scares being lazy or unnecessary.
yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree with around that time, definitely Scream started really making fun of, horror like that, and I love that
Mhm.
they even went further and made, Scary Movie, which was even further making fun of it, because it was a parody of a movie already poking fun at the slasher genre.
Mhm. I fucking love Scary Movie and Scream. Both of them are so good. I love it.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan of those. I'm not a major fan of a lot of the Scream movies. I've liked some of the recent ones, but I've only really watched through fully to the end of first Scream.
The first Scream is forever my favorite. It's
Yeah,
so good.
I think I
I love
watched the
it.
second one at one point, but it wasn't terribly memorable.
I don't think I've watched the rest of them. I think I've only watched the OG.
Yeah,
So I guess I'll have to do my homework and see the rest of them. I've seen almost all of the scary movies though, but not all of the Scream ones.
I especially love in the ending scene where the really kind of realistic depiction of like these guys finding out that the police are gonna get them. It's Matthew Lillard and the other guy, and he's
Oh
sitting there like,
yeah,
"My mom's gonna be so mad at me."
fucking
hit,
love Matthew Lillard.
hit me with the phone, dick.
Yeah, I love how that was improvised. By the
Yeah,
way,
'cause he actually hit him with
fucking
the phone by accident.
I I love Matthew Lillard. Oh my god, he is. I don't care if we all fuckers say he is my Shaggy.
And Matthew Lillard's got a new fucking cooking like a horror cake baking show that he hosts.
Dude, no fucking way, really?
I saw my parents watching it earlier.
Tell please give me the name. I love baking shows, and I also fucking love Matthew Lillard, please.
Let me
Oh my
find this
god,
real
that'd be
quick.
the best thing ever. Oh my god. I will watch that during my lunch breaks at work. Please tell me the name. I need that in my life.
I think it's called Killer Cakes.
Killer Cakes? Okay, let me write that down. Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Hang on, let me
Yeah,
see.
Killer Cakes. Yeah,
Killer
it's
Cakes?
it's on Prime Video. Killer Cakes.
Killer oh, I if I could spell killer right. Killer Cakes.
Yeah, I just walked past like my parents watching that. I was like, "Is that fucking Matthew Lillard?" And it was indeed him.
Yep, I see it. Oh, Danielle Harris? Awesome. Wow.
Yeah,
Sweet. Okay, I am definitely checking that out. I fucking love that. That's the best thing I could have heard today. Great. All right. Are you ready to talk about 2000s horror, honey?
I am. 2000s
Uh,
horror is probably one of my like early 2000s. Not my favorite.
oh, we'll get into it. So, 2000 horror also isn't super into the whole jump scare thing. 2000s is where we start seeing, like James was talking about earlier, our torture porn, as many people refer to it. So instead
Yeah,
of like our cheesy, goofy jump scares that we see in previous decades, films in this particular modern decade are moving to focus more on gore and realistic violence. And I actually have a quote from C. Robert Cargyle, which I hope I'm saying your last name correct, sir. But if you don't know who he is a super well-known producer and a horror and like a movie writer. He is the dude that is responsible for the script behind The Black Phone, both Sinister movies and Doctor Strange.
I think he's
So
good.
he's a guy. He is the guy. He is a guy.
Yeah.
He's great. He's in it. So I do have a quote from him. He says, and I quote, "We got sick of seeing teenagers strapped to chairs and having their eyeballs pulled out with pliers. So what you have is all these people saying, I don't want to see real monsters anymore. I want scary monsters. I want monsters that I can believe for an hour and a half exist and then walk away going, oh no, ghosts don't exist." End quote.
Yeah. That makes sense.
What'd you think about that?
I kind of agree with that. That you want to have something that holds your attention. You can actually feel it feels real during the movie, but it's not going to leave you sitting there just depressed after.
Mhm. Which I think and I know I'm gonna be talking about it again, but another reason why I love Alien so much is that the the xenomorph is so well written. Is a great movie monster because it ties into the thing of it's an alien from an unknown planet, an unknown universe, and we don't really get to see all that stuff about it. It's very mysterious. It kind of slinks around the ship slowly grabbing the crew, and it's just so well written, and it doesn't rely on cheesy methods to for it to scare you. Just the thought of it being on the ship scares you, like, especially, like, the ending where Ripley activates the self-destruct of the Nostromo, and she's heading to the escape shuttle with Jonesy, and she peers around the corner, and the alien's just right there.
Oh yeah, it's a really
It
effective
gives
jump
me
scare.
chills every time, just her turning, looking around the corner, and then just it being there is so it gives me shivers, it's beautiful.
In Alien, I really enjoy the sections where uh, it's right next to Ripley, or like right in her
Mhm.
face, and she isn't like freaking out and screaming. She's just trying to steady herself, trying to not move.
Yeah,
I like seeing that resolve in her. That's one of the reasons I
I
like Ripley
know.
so much. She's not simply there to freak out and scream and run away. She's trying to survive her damnedest.
Well, Ellen Ripley is a badass, like,
Yeah,
literally, she is an amazingly written character, and another reason why I love Alien so much is that we see a strong female character in a movie, specifically a horror movie, because, again, at that point before, because in the '70s, like, that's, like, where movies start kind of being a little goofy from time to time, and so we start getting a little bit of the slashers. It's more serious before the '80s, but we don't really typically see women in strong roles like that or them being reliant on themselves rather than that of another person.
yeah.
And just her being able to have this reserve in a really awful situation is just super, super insane. It's great. I love her. But like, my favorite scene and I know I have a lot of favorite scenes, but my all-time favorite scene in that movie is the end, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, the end sucks because it's stupid." No, it's not. But that scene where she is in the escape pod and she's about to go into cryo sleep and she just sees the fucking alien just in the ship. Oh my god. And then she puts the spacesuit on and she tries to lure him out of that little crevice. And she has the harpoon gun ready and she's trying to get the airlock prepped and she's just breathing, trying to sing to herself to make her calm down, and she just slowly turns around, and the aliens like has this disgusting burnt face, just hissing at her. Oh my god, it's so good.
I really like that section as well because once again, Ripley sees the threat, calms herself down, and immediately makes a plan on what she's going to deal with it.
Mhm. And it's crazy because I think that's the only time we actually see Ripley actually scream in full on fear at that point where she just turns in the spacesuit, she just leans over her shoulder and just sees this disgusting burnt creature in her face, and she screams, hits that fucking airlock button, and sends that bitch out into space. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And there's no like trying to be a badass moment. There's no like one liner that she says when it leaves. She just
No, she just does
decides.
it and gets it out, like,
Yeah.
not hesitation, just gets it out of there. Fucking
I
love
really
Alien.
Ripley's a good character. I think one of the things that sets her apart from a lot of times, she's an amazing female character in a movie because she wasn't written to be a strong female character.
No, she
Oh,
wasn't.
yeah. She's simply a character that's well written that is also a woman.
Mhm, I
I
agree.
really dislike that really often that they try so hard to shove how people's they just try and shove that shit into certain movies sometimes, where
Mhm,
they want a character to be like Ripley and be strong and recognized, but they don't understand that the reason she is like that is because the character wasn't written to even have a gender originally. They were all just referred to by their last
By
names
their
in the
last
book.
names.
Yeah, and that's how you get a good character. You write the
Mhm.
character instead of trying to write a character into something you want.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
'Cause I feel like very often we see, like, in media where, like, people are like, "Oh, wow, um, oh, this we have to write a strong woman we wanna have a strong woman female character," which is fine. I mean, that should be something that is more represented, and but the way that they go about it is, like, I feel like they often too heavily rely on the fact of her being a woman, and they kinda miss the entire point of her being a strong female character. You don't need to have a strong female character. It's perfectly fine to have a strong character that happens to be a female.
yeah. I prefer it when they just write characters instead of trying to write a character that fits this archetype. It's
Mhm, and
it's like diversity hiring characters in a movie.
yeah, and props to Sigourney Weaver too, because I believe that in the original script of the Alien, they were going to try to have a scene between Ripley and Dallas, and Sigourney's like, "Absolutely not. That's not necessary. We ain't doing that."
Yeah, I'm glad they took
You
that
don't
out of there. That would have felt
I'm
kinda just
glad that she said no to that.
it just would have
Thank you,
fucked up the
Sigourney.
flow of the movie.
That would've that oh god, that would've fucking ruined the movie, I'm sure. But, yeah. But yeah, since we were talking about Psycho earlier, I also have a quote from Alfred Hitchcock, the guy,
Wow.
the man. Um, again, Psycho was so early on being like one of the second recordings of actual jump scares in film. So he seems to have such a good handle on how to effectively build and hold tension. If anyone here has either gone to a film school or is a writer or is just super into film, chances are you have heard this quote before, and I've seen this, and I'm like, "Oh, I know this quote. I've heard this before." It's actually ironically cliche to use it to talk about the ideal of like suspense and all that stuff. Um, so now, Hitchcock doesn't specifically talk about jump scares in this context in this quote I'm about to read, but I feel like looking into it, the same principles apply. So he says, and I quote, "Four people are sitting around a table talking about baseball. 5 minutes of it, very dull. Suddenly, a bomb goes off, blows the people to smithereens. What does the audience have? 10 seconds of shock. Now take the same scene. Tell the audience there's a bomb under the table and will go off in 5 minutes. Well, the emotion of the audience is very different. Now the conversation about baseball becomes very vital because the audience is saying, don't be ridiculous. Stop talking about baseball. There's a bomb under there. You've got the audience working, end quote.
Yeah, it's a good quote by him. It's a very good one.
Mm-hmm. But when you think about the thing of, jump scares and like how they work, having that quote is super insane because he really even when he's not talking about the actual art of of the jump scare, you can see how his experience with working tension and fear and suspense into his movies have crafted how he was able to apply the foundation that ended up becoming the jump scare. I think it works very well.
Yeah.
What do you think about this quote, hon? Just applying it to jump scares. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it.
There's a lot of trying to you can't really build up to them in such a way that it's, like, very blatant. I agree with him. You have to try and get the audience working. You have to get them guessing. Like with Rink. That
Mhm.
the reason that movie works so well, the couple jump scares it has in it are set up in such a way that you have no idea that shit's coming.
I know, and it works so well, like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
And that's why you're dreading it so much the whole time, and that's why when it does hit, it actually scares the shit out of you. It
Yeah.
didn't scare you
The
because it built it up for like 2 seconds and it went boom.
the thing with
It
Skinamarink is it develops tension very early on, and it holds it throughout the entire movie. It
I think
doesn't drop it once.
that movie's my gold standard for how to make something actually scary in a movie.
Oh, no, I agree, like, that movie does it so fucking well, like, it is and I feel like that also really cemented my love of, like, stuff like analog horror and found footage type stuff. Because I used to hate it. I really did. I used to find it super cheesy and lame and boring, but because of Skinamarink and stuff like that, I've come to appreciate stuff like, the Mandela Catalog, Marble Hornets, the Boiled One Phenomena, that kinda stuff, and we'll get into them later, but, just Skinamarink, I feel like, is the pinnacle of modern horror at its finest,
Yeah,
especially with it being so successful, and it just goes to show that you don't need a lot of money to make a movie effective at scaring people.
yeah,
If you know what to apply and how to apply it, and you know how to use your resources, you can do make a good film
yeah.
that actually is good at scaring people.
And he hadn't had a proper film release before this movie either. This was his first
Mm-mm.
actual film release. He'd made
Yes.
plenty of stuff on his YouTube beforehand, though. I hope
Mhm.
that movie inspires more younger filmmakers to get on and start making stuff on their own, trying things out.
Yes. But yeah, I usually don't try to input stuff that we've done because, we like to kinda keep things separate. But if you haven't already, or if you're not really sure about Skidamarink, how to feel about it, what we're really talking about, we did a few months ago make a video on Skidamarink. We would
Yeah,
recommend that you would check that out
I
just
definitely give it a
because we
glance at that.
yeah, at least a little bit. We go into way more detail about the movie, what we thought about it, how it utilizes those tactics very well, all the resources that he used. So it really is a really good deep dive, I feel like, in that movie, and something that isn't really super talked about because there is, as popular as this movie was, it wasn't really deemed as a great catalyst for stuff like that or like a Marvel. We think otherwise, and we wanted to give it the respect that it deserves. So if you have trouble finding a good source about, like, all the nitty-gritty of the movie, we definitely recommend kinda clicking through that, kinda getting a feel for what that movie does, how what it does
Yeah.
well, all that stuff. So, just a little insert there.
And another YouTuber that has a extremely good cover of Skinamarink as well as Wendigoon. I know I'm shouting out a way larger YouTuber than it, but he has a really good description of it.
Yeah, and I did actually use, his, yeah, I did use his video for help with ours, so
Yeah,
definitely give him some credit because I definitely wouldn't have been as thorough in my research of that movie without his help.
he's also one of
So,
my just favorite YouTubers in general. Just
well,
give
he's
that guy a
great.
watch.
He talks about a lot of really interesting horror stuff, so we usually try not to recommend because I don't wanna be one of those YouTubers. I don't even like to consider myself a YouTube, I just like to be, like, a nerdy content create person that happens to be a content creator at times. But, yeah, just it's always nice to have, like, some extra sources because it's boring if you just look at one source for everything, you know? Like, it's good to have variety, especially when you're talking about certain topics like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so James, now it's time to go into the art of why do jump scares work? How they're just, as lame as people say that they are, and like how stupid people say that they are, and how like, oh, why you didn't need to do that. They still work. Why
I
do
like it,
they?
yeah. I think they work just really well, especially because it's a classic way of scaring someone.
Mhm.
Like I
So
said, it still has to be built up properly, but it makes you jump, doesn't it?
absolutely. No, it
Mm,
definitely works.
yeah.
So why does it work? So, switching into nerd mode here and regurgitating all of my years of medical knowledge. So, we'll go ahead and talk. So, jump scares work by what they essentially do is they trigger a startle response in our bodies. So, James, I feel like you can help me with this one because, again, we're going to bring in our good old boy Skinamarink here because it's such a good choice, again, for showing how jump scares work because it's so extremely good at doing that.
Yeah.
It utilizes our animalistic fears so well. Like it has to be an example in this. So after explaining how a jump scare works within the body, I'm gonna have you apply my wisdom to that movie. Are you ready?
Alrighty. I think I get what you
All
mean.
right. Hell yeah. All right, let's do it. So when you get scared, it catalyzes a reaction to an unexpected stimuli in your nervous system. You know, that big veiny thing that runs through the middle of your body. Very important. Don't lose that. Um, This response is a result of your brain's emergency response system, which activates the amygdala, the hypothalamus, I can't speak, hypothalamus, and your brainstem. For those who may not know any of the words that just came out of my mouth, don't worry, I'll explain. I got you. So the amygdala is the little almond-shaped part of your brain that processes your emotion. In this case, it being fear.
So
There's
is
a
that a
very
little, like, ball section kinda at the back?
yeah, it is. No, no, not the back of the brain. Wait, okay, be more
You know, right
specific.
right by the brainstem, the little, like, or
No, that is your cerebellum. Your
uh
amygdala is located inside of your brain.
oh, okay, okay.
It's like if you look at a cut, if you took your brain, or at least see a picture of someone's brain who's cut in half directly down the center in the middle, into like the two like hemispheres,
Yeah,
you'll see like this little almondy shaped little tiny oval thing in the center, near the center. That's your amygdala.
okay.
Yeah. So it's a little almond part of your brain that processes your emotions, in this case, fear. Your hypothalamus is part of your brain that controls a lot of your bodily functions like hormone release, homeostasis, temperature regulation, appetite, sex drive, sleep, a lot of different important things that are often having to do with hormones. In the case of being scared, it activates the sympathetic nervous system in your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis during your fight or flight response to release epinephrine or adrenaline into your bloodstream from your adrenal glands. The brain then synthesizes the stress hormone norepinephrine. I can't fucking speak today. Norepinephrine, which heightens your attention. With all of this in mind, as cheesy as it can be, when they work, jump scares exploit a few key aspects of your brain chemistry. So again, the sound is a crucial part. A loud auditory stimulus activates the startle response quicker than most other involuntary responses. Jump scares also can be acousmatic, meaning you hear the sound but you don't see what's causing it, which helps tap into the fear of the unknown. Again, talking about going back to Alien, when you see, because the xenomorph doesn't make a lot of sound, but, there's a lot of noises that company gets, so, like, hearing the sound of the Nostromo's alarm, and then you see this creature, it's more like, "Oh my god, I gotta be scared," kinda thing. It unsettles you, it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Silence has also been proven to be unsettling in a horror film and can foreshadow something horrible happening by
Oh, yeah.
making audiences anticipate the next shock. They can become fearful of the character and situation at hand.
Yeah,
Another thing
complete
I
total
liked
silence is a very good way to mess with your brain
oh,
because, we're
yeah.
all very used to hearing various sounds and things. It's like being in the woods and then, hearing all the insects and birds shut the hell up. That
Mhm.
is I've had it happen to me before.
It's
It's
creepy.
scary.
It's awful. It's like,
It's really good because it's telling you to get the fuck out of there because everything else needs to get the fuck out of there.
yeah, it's like,
It's an important response to have because it's using that same type of reaction.
Mhm. Yeah. Another thing I'd like to note is studies show that anticipation does not help counter being scared, but actually often makes it worse. When you're hypervigilant, a neurotransmitter called glutamate is actually released and carries that fear from your amygdala deeper into your brain, which causes you to jump. In people who have anxiety or paranoia, like myself, blushes, get scared easier due to always being in a state of hypervigilance. That's a lot of knowledge, wasn't it? I'm sorry if I overloaded your brain.
No, you're good.
So, with all of that, and if you need me to re-explain anything, I will. So, how do you think that Cinemarink makes you go the oopsie scoopsies?
The Skinner rank likes to mess with quiet and inaction, as well as not being
Mhm,
able to actually see anything. It's like what you're
mhm,
talking about with like the silence starting to get to you. It uses a
mhm,
lot of that stuff in that, and a lot of that build up, and none of it doesn't like to overuse scares a lot at all. It only has a couple of scares in it, and it sets that tension. It holds it, and just makes you get to the point where you are in that state of paranoia. and that's very
Yeah.
important to build that state of paranoia when you're trying to hit a jump scare.
Mhm. Is there any movie that you says doesn't use that very well or doesn't utilize that very well?
A movie that doesn't utilize it very well is, Friday the 13th, for me at least. It
Mhm.
never sets dread for me in any of those movies. I never dread what's coming.
Yeah.
It just kinda happens.
Yeah. It just happened.
That's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of the Friday the 13th series.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hit and miss.
Yeah,
More misses than hits, but, it's okay. I don't wanna
works
bully
for me.
movies too much.
I also just have a mild distaste for how the directors seem to only care about how they did in the box office.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to make a profit, but, I feel like it's better to do something that you love, you know? But that's just my take on it. I mean, I'm not a movie director, so I don't really have the jurisdiction to say that, so it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so moving on from the science dump because I probably overloaded poor James's noggin with science.
No, I'm good.
We'll go ahead and now talk about the different techniques of jump scares. So, our good friends at wherethejump.com has graciously compiled a list of commonly used tropes and techniques. Now, I thought that they had a list of commonly, they didn't go through all of them. I was able to find more. So, rather than the four that they've talked about, I was able to compile a list of eight with my help, from help of amazing people such as Hitchcock, David Lynch, and a bunch of other super, super great sources who have utilized jump scares in their movies. So, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about them. So, do you want me to read them out to you, James, or did you want to go ahead and try to guess them and see what they are?
Go ahead and read them out to me.
Okay. So you don't want to play a game, James?
I'm
All
just not
right.
very good at guessing things.
I know. It's okay. So the first one that we got is our animal scare. So a sub scare of our loot and bust technique. It's a fake out scare where instead of something scary scares you, an animal jumps onto screen. So for example, we have Jones and Alien, Pet Cemetery, and the one that you're talking about earlier, Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, animal jump scares are super common. They happen quite a bit in horror movies, I'm sure. So I'm sure there's a movie out there. I feel like I've seen a horror movie where like a deer pops out and causes a car to swerve into a tree. I don't know. I'm sure
A lot of
something
time
like
it's
that has happened.
cats.
Cats, yeah.
'Cause
It's
cats always
always
have a
cats.
habit of finding their ways into spots they shouldn't be.
Yeah, little creatures, little critters. Yeah, so our next type of scare is our mirror scares. So they typically come in two different setups. One is like a swinging medicine cabinet that shuts, revealing something behind. And the second one is when the
That's
camera
a
kind of
classic.
pans. Yeah, the classic one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is when the camera kind of pans away from a mirror when it comes back to something in the mirror that wasn't there before. So, like, example, the entirety of Candyman relies heavily on mirror scares, and also, there's a scene in The Conjuring 2 where one of the characters gets jumped by Vlak in front of a mirror.
I really didn't like The Nun very much.
Well, this isn't The Nun, this is The Conjuring with the Nun.
Ah, okay. I haven't
It's a
seen that one
different movie.
myself.
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't seen The Nun, so I gotta see The Nun. Whatever. It's not really on my to-do list, but I have to at some point because, of course I do. I have to stay horror savvy. So another type of jump scare that we typically see is delayed scare. A character avoids death, and we think that they're safe, only to be killed a few minutes later. The only example that could really come to my mind for this one is like anything in Final Destination, specifically the scene where there's like a guy. I think it's like a ladder, and he's on the ground, and something falls, and it kind of stops right before it hits him, and the guy's like, oh, and then the thing just kinda falls on him and kills him.
Oh,
But
yeah.
stuff like that.
A lot of, Final Destination has a lot of those types of scares.
Oh, yeah, like the delayed or just kinda like all of the other ones so
The
far?
delayed ones. They like to mess around a lot with the delayed ones.
Mhm.
Because really the
Yeah,
only way you can provide variety to that type of kill.
yeah. I mean, Final Destination is already such a goofy premise as is.
Yeah, God trying to get back at you for failing to die when you meant you to.
Oh my god, whoops.
Act of God, the movie.
Act of God, the movie. I love that
I almost
fucking
would have. I almost would have preferred. Would have been more interesting if they had the title of Act of God.
the movie or just Act of God?
Like if that's what the movie was called,
Yeah, so just Act of God, not Act of God, the movie.
that'd be even funnier. Oh my God.
Act of God, the movie. That's so fucking funny. Right. So our next scare we got is our car scare. So either a car comes out of nowhere or more infamously, someone tapping on a car window with somebody inside. So, examples like Randy popping outside of Gales's news van in Scream, in the beginning of Urban Legend where the gas station attendant played by Brad Dourif pops up outside of like a car window, and that scene
Yeah.
in Hereditary where Joan taps on Amy's car window outside of the grief counseling meeting hall.
And pretty recently in Smile, with that window tap jump scare.
Thank you for adding that because I have not seen Smile.
Smile has a really effective window tap jump scare.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to look at that. I've been
It's
meaning to watch that movie.
that's good. I actually really enjoyed it.
Oh, sweet. Yippee!
Yeah.
Our next one is something that's not as common, at least as recently. I mean, I could be wrong, but our peephole jump scare. So we have someone looks for a peephole, and we kind of have their point of view, and then something kind of pops up in view. The only thing I could think of is that scene in Autopsy of Jane Doe, where the guy goes to the thing, and then this creature kind of pops up from the little peephole.
Oh yeah.
Um, you're gonna know this one, James. The killer is not really dead.
They use that all the time, especially in Halloween and Friday the 13th. It's a slasher
Yeah,
staple. In fact,
yeah,
every
if
slasher I know of does that.
yeah, like the ones I could think of, Halloween, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's
Scream,
Play does it multiple times throughout the movie.
Scream. Oh my God, Child's Play is egregious with it.
They do it like 3 times, 3 or 4 times, I'm sure. But yeah, even in specifically Scream, it's even quoted that like, "Careful, this is the part where the killer comes back for one last scare." And so you can see that was a very popular trope, especially in the 70s and 80s movies of our slashers.
It's a very, very common thing with slashers, especially.
Very common, very
Especially
common.
from the very first Halloween where Myers gets smacked by Laurie, and you can see him sit up in the background while Laurie's
Mhm.
talking.
Yeah, that
I love
most
that shot so
infamous.
much.
It's such a good one. I fucking love the OG Halloween. It's
And a lot of the
so
time,
good.
this trope is accompanied by characters making a really poor decision of getting way too close to the presumed dead killer.
Oh, yeah. Always. Of course, right?
Yeah.
Come back or any. So we got 2 more on our list. So we have something that I've only seen one movie personally. It's our fridge scare. So I feel like this could even apply to a door, probably more commonly, but it's
Yeah.
a sideways shot of a character who is looking like a fridge or a cabinet outside of their front door. We don't actually see what they're looking at, but the door closes and reveals that something's behind it. Whereas the jump.com actually points out that these types of scares are easy to see coming due to the goofy camera angle that they're shot in.
Yeah, the camera angle
And
is a massive dead giveaway if this is a scare you're about to see.
yeah, like for instance, the movie I've seen that does this is The Purge, the 2013 Purge, where the lady is in her fridge, she closes the door to see her son behind the fridge door.
Yeah.
It's super goofy. And I remember I was even talking to Luna about when we were talking about like movies and stuff and camera angles. I was talking to her about like that, and she's like, "Dude, those." She's like, "It always makes me so pissed off when I see those movies with that type of scare in it because I could tell that the scare is coming and it ruins it for me."
Yeah, because it's so distinctive. You're like, oh, well, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
Because
kind of wrecks a jump scare really
yeah,
fast
like
is having it be obvious.
Yeah, like, come on. Like, no one's gonna why would you film it like that? Like, no one's gonna wanna see it like that. Like, that's so stupid. Like, I feel like it'd be really cool if, I feel like this would be more like something for, like, an analog film where it's, like, a over the shoulder view of a character opening the fridge and then closing it and then opening the fridge to see something in there, but I feel like that apply more to, like, the supernatural thing rather than just kinda like, a slasher or a home invasion type movie.
Yeah.
Because, that's the only case. Because if you're a demon, demons don't have the laws of physics apply to them. That's stupid. Demons don't apply to physics.
Yeah,
Physics don't apply to
demons don't do
demons.
physics.
Yeah, we don't do physics. What the fuck's that? And then lastly, we have our false awakening scare, which is utilized in something such as like a dream sequence, and the
Oh, yeah.
character wakes up in bed, rolls over, and there's like a fucking corpse or whatever next to them. So
Freddy
like
loves doing this.
yeah, Friday the 13th is the one that I was thinking of. Specifically, I believe in the first where she rolls over and he's like, "Ha, bitch." So
Yeah,
yeah, those are
Freddy loves
but
playing around with those, dream jump scares, and I've seen a couple of them. Hereditary does one with the false wake up and the dream sequence that the mother has,
oh, you're so
with
right.
the gasoline and the fire and the ants pouring out of his mouth and that stuff.
Oh, you're so fucking right, actually. I completely forgot that happened.
Yeah.
Damn. Hereditary is also a good fucking movie. So So, before we switch gears into a few games I want to play with James, we're going to talk about something that has grown in immense popularity over the last, I'd say maybe a few months to few years, maybe, depending on the kind of what type that you're looking at. But I really want to talk about analog horror. Now, you're probably not really associating jump scares with analog horror because they typically don't include traditional jump scares. Because when you think of analog, you think of like your low fidelity graphics, your cryptic messages, your visual
Yeah.
styles that resembles like late 20th century television and analog recordings. Much like found footage, analog horror kind of relies on a sense of authenticity by presenting the content as if it were real, often using like a framework of like news reports, instructional videos, emergency broadcasts, stuff like that.
It's very similar
Um,
to found footage in style.
very very similar in style, but very different in the way that that style is presented to the audience, I feel.
Very different. And the fact that it has to involve the analog format in order for it to be properly analog horror.
Yeah, because in that point, it's just found footage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so again, jump scares in analog are used very sparingly, with primary fear derived from more of dread, unease, paranoia, stuff like the fear of the unknown. When jump scares do happen, though, they're often very unexpected and sudden, and they're really heightened by the tension that's already built through that weird, uncanny atmosphere. And there's a lot of influences on analog horror, one of that being the work of David Lynch, who has worked on a bunch of stuff, who's like a lot of surrealistic films and TV series influenced that eerie atmosphere, that sudden tonal shift, disorientating storytelling techniques. So when we look at found footage films such as like the Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, it kinda laid the groundwork of combining, like, low budget, intimate filming styles with, like, this horror and making the audience feel like they're watching something real.
And I think
And
that low budget lends itself very well to horror films, especially if you use it correctly, especially
mhm,
filming techniques, because it does make the film feel a lot more grounded when it's not super high budget, crystal clear stuff, and it feels more like it's something that you are watching, that's something you've seen like on someone record before. It doesn't
yeah,
have to have all these super cinematic camera angles in order for it to effectively get scares across, especially in the analog horror series, actually the YouTuber in general, Doctor Nowhere. He doesn't
mhm,
have any pans, any camera cuts. It's part most of the stuff is drawn by him, and that is some of the most. It's he's my favorite analog creator I've seen on YouTube. Definitely go take a
mhm.
look at him. He's the fellow that made the boiled one.
Yeah, super fucking cool.
I
But
love Doctor Nowhere's content.
yeah, yeah. "Oh, let's go on the tent, we'll be setting the nylon."
Oh yeah, fucking. That's a reference. Me and Ashley here recently watched a parody of the Blair Witch called the Blair Thumb.
So good.
I think it's on YouTube. Go watch it. There's a,
Maybe.
there's a bit in there
Yes!
where they're fucking running away from the tent, and they're like, "Hey, let's get back to the tent." And one dude goes like, "Oh sure, the tent's safe. Nothing can penetrate the nylon." That's been a running joke for the longest time for me.
I love it so much, and then fucking just Jish!
Jesh, what kind of fucking name's Jesh?
Fucking love it. Alright, anyway. So, yeah, so in analog horror, jump scares are often framed within like glitchy or disoriented aesthetics. Very often, a sudden loud noise, we have a bunch of image distortion, or a figure that kind of appears in like a low res footage that can be particularly jarring because viewers are already on the edge due to the unsettling nature of those visuals. And these moments are often designed to feel more real because of their unpolished and raw format.
And the not quite clear cameras can also lend itself a lot to forcing you to look into the shadows to try and see if something's there,
Yeah.
which is what's going to rank once again. Does really really well with having that kind of just distorted background and making it so you're looking in the background. It's forcing your eyes
Mhm.
into those dark places and making you get into that paranoid, state of mind.
I think one of the scares that got me the worst was, like, that first one, or at least one of the first few ones where, she's like, "Hey, I don't feel so good," kinda thing, and you're like, "Oh my god," and you're,
Ugh.
like, looking I'm just sitting there looking, it's like, "Okay, there has to be, like, a fucking person there or something that's gonna be popping out and make her really not feel good," and it just pans suddenly to, like, her face all distorted and fucked up, and I wasn't expecting that to happen, just caught me really off guard.
Yeah, that was a really good scare.
It was very scary, very fucking scary.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I really wanna cement this idea because I really like al analog horror. Again, as of recently, watched a bunch of stuff, and it makes you really appreciate that art form a lot more, and I really wanna highlight some projects that had to research to kinda explain how they utilize jump scares so much, and I really took these things that I just meant to kinda, like, use to their fullest advantage because, again, they're really good. So, the first one that I wanna talk about is a YouTube series called Local 58. It's created by someone named Chris
Classic.
Straub. I hope I'm saying your name right.
This was my
Um,
favorite. This was my very first analog horror series I ever got into.
Me too. It's very, very good. Well, maybe not my first one, but it's one of the first ones. It's definitely the first one that made me actually appreciate analog.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically what it does is it simulates a public broadcast signal, often interrupted by like terrifying or cryptic messages. And excuse me, one of the most influential and well known of the genre and exemplifies like this tension building in this limited amount of jump scares. But even though it doesn't use them very often, when they do, it's very, very effective. And they're often employed after like long periods of tense, eerie buildup. And relies on unsettling broadcasts and distorted visuals of jump scares that's usually delivered through sudden audio glitches and disturbing messages, or it kind of abruptly shifts in, or really abrupt shifts in the footage that's being presented. And it kind of lulls viewers into like a false sense of security through its mundane TV style presentation. And it makes those jump scares hit harder when the ordinary is interrupted by something terrifying or unnatural.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I agree. It does a really good job in that, especially with making it feel homely.
Mhm.
It also doesn't waste a whole lot of time getting into the actual spookiness of it. Uh, Especially with that. A lot of the stuff tends like in the first one in the you're on the fastest available route. That one leads to the end to really start to get spooky. The one that
Oop.
really fucks with me the most out of that whole series is specifically the emergency service announcement one. The one that
Oh,
has the
dude.
patriotic, because that one is just scary in general
That
about
one's
what
just
it's implying.
awful.
Where if you haven't watched it, go watch it. But definitely that one's just that one's, like, actually spooky because of what it's implying, especially with the bit of, make sure to assist younger patriots before assisting yourself.
Yeah.
Ugh, that
It really makes it creepy and ugh.
and then hits you
Like,
with the, "Sorry, just kidding, guys. That was radio piracy. I'm glad hope you guys didn't do any of that shit."
yeah, when that I think that made it weird, like, just really uncomfortable because it's like, "Hey, sorry." I'm like, "Oh my god." And it just made me start thinking it just made me start thinking like, "Oh my god, did people fucking do this?" And I'm like, "Wait, no, it's fake. Of course they didn't." But it's that kind of sense of like you think about this thing and it's like, "Oh my god." Because you could see that possibly happening, you know? Especially in a day and age where the internet is so readily available to a lot of different people, feel like people would try to utilize something like that in cases where they want to wreak havoc on people or individuals or a group of people.
Yeah.
They have those resources to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, Another one that I want to talk about, and I think it's more on the recent side, is the Mandela Catalog.
I also
So,
heavily like the series.
mhm, very, very good. So Alex Kister made this little baby, his little business, his little baby, and this focuses on alternate dimensions and body snatchers, and it uses like VHS style footage and these eerie, distorted
Not
visuals
quite
to
alternate
unsettle.
dimensions.
Well, not alternate dimensions, but like alternate. I don't know how to explain it, but like alternate
Doppelgangers.
versions of the same person. Yeah, doppelgangers. There you go.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he kinda utilizes the idea of, like, they call them alternates. It's like this sudden appearance of, like, these alternates, which are, like, really unsettling doppelgangers with distorted faces and, like, these inhuman features, and it's like they kinda these their jump scares in the series often occur after prolonged eerie scenes of more normality.
Yeah. It utilizes, jump scares effectively well. One that fucks with me, I think one of the first sections of, Mandela Catalog
Mhm.
is the scream that turns distorted. Uh,
Yeah.
that whole segment really fucks with me. It's the bit, where it's a sound detected at, like, 3 a.m., allegedly at Caesar's house, and the lady screaming, "No!" And it just distorts and pulls out, and that both Caesar's and Mark's face distort, and it makes that loud just sound. That shit scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah, that
It overwhelms
fucking
you. It's really good at just overwhelming you and just making you frightened and really triggering that fight or flight response like we were talking about.
mhm. Like, it's insane. Um, so next up we got is very I'm surprised this one's gonna be probably not surprising just because it has to be among the most popular of analog Marble Hornets. It's more found footage if you really think about it.
It's
It's
one of
kind
the
of like
earlier types of analog horror before analog horror really
yeah,
became a thing.
yeah, that's why I kind of want to include it on here because I feel like it still has aspects of analog horror before it really that term was really coined by anything.
Mm. It primarily, would identify as found footage probably more.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll leave that up to you guys' interpretation, but I'll put it as found footage slash analog because I feel like it both
Yeah.
could apply. But so Marble Hornets is kind of centered on the Slender Man mythos, and it really helped popularize the use of like web series format in horror, often overlapping with analog horror techniques. So a bunch of analog horror came from this laying that foundation and that level of like unsettling kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit since I've watched Marble Hornets, and I can't remember if there are any jump scares in it. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I just can't remember what specific sense or where they occur. But it definitely did freak me out for a while. So I mean, what about you, James? Have you ever seen Marble Hornets?
I've seen a little bit of it. It got a lot of I will say Marble Hornets doesn't exactly have the largest amount of payoff in their actual videos. Like, things would
Okay.
happen, but it would take a long time to build up with it, and I found myself getting a little bored with Marble Hornets at times.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. And there's one more I want to talk about, and it's also super recently, probably one of the more recent ones. But I'm gonna be honest. When I first watched it, I wasn't super impressed with it the first time. But after watching it a lot more and kind of getting into it, I really came to appreciate the video and kind of like what it was doing. The boiled one phenomena. I know I hated it at first. I'm sorry.
I
I
really
don't
liked it at
anymore.
first.
I really love it. But
I've always been a fan of boiled one.
yeah, it's fucking great. Like, I don't know what the hell I was on about for a long time, but it was fucking great. Um, it's very relatively obscure. It's super impactful though. It's definitely garnered a cult following for its I the thing that I really like about the boiled one is that it has a very unique approach to psychological terror. Like it has a like it uses a bunch of disturbing imagery in its minimalist execution. So the video presents itself like a corrupted VHS tape or kind of like an instructional video, and it
It starts
features
out
a
with that nature show that it says came back in
mhm,
day. That's a thing I like that the boiled one does is that it relates also some real life events that happened and uses them in the story, like that blackout.
yeah, I liked
I
that too. I thought that was
I
very.
yeah. As you can tell, I really like boiled one. I'm holding the fucking plush toy that he
Are
put
you
out.
holding your plushie?
I've got him in my hand right now. He's enjoying it. He's having fun.
Are you caring for your manifestation of trauma?
Absolutely. He's got a nice little spot on my bed.
Aw, the boiled one plushie. He's
Oh yeah,
boiled. He's the one.
he
He
sees
sees
you,
you. It's
whether
the
you bought him or
boiled
not.
one
Whether you bought him or not, he's on his way right now.
right now. I bought it before I wanted it, and he arrived before I purchased it.
Cool.
Oh,
We're making fun of
wow.
the trailer that the
Oh,
guy made for when he was putting out the push.
best
Uh,
fucking advertisement I've ever seen, by the way.
It's
God, that made
it's
me
the
wanna
greatest
buy
ad.
all of them.
It's an ad
It's
that I watch on occasion for fun.
yeah, it's so fucking good. Let him fly don't let him fly your helicopter. He can't do
Can't do
that.
that.
His license
License was
suspended
suspended
in
in 1962.
1962. You love it. So good. I love it.
I'm
Um,
a big fan of Boiled One. I like how it uses the real life events a lot. I like,
it's very creepy.
yeah, the distorted voice and the distorted faces always get me. Just the uncanny is always very good at messing with me.
Mhm.
And I just I just love how it's approached.
Yeah, cause like, he has very unnervingly distorted appearances, like, it's like, cause it's like it's combining, like, these human-like traits with, like, an unnatural and nightmarish feature. It's so creepy, especially when you consider that he is a product of, like, extreme bodily harm or mutation. It's like it evokes, like, this sense of, like, revulsion and existential fear.
It reminds me a
It
lot of Hellraiser.
does, actually, now that you kinda
Yeah.
think about that. I see a lot of similarities between
And
that
just the
and,
way
like, the
he's
Hell
yeah,
Priest.
and just the way he's mutilated and flayed and just ripped apart looking.
Mhm. He's already into that, though.
Yeah, it's so goofy the fact that I'm holding a little fucking plush toy of this abomination.
Hey, don't make fun of the boiled one. Hey,
Yeah.
just don't let him fly your helicopter.
I'm gonna bring him in the helicopter.
Dude, please do. Like, you need
The
to
next
take, like,
time
a
I
pi
go
put,
flying,
like, the headphones put the
I'm gonna
little
take
headphones on him.
next time I go flying, I'm gonna pull him out of my flight bag and be like, hold on, there's a reason.
There's a reason. Hang on, yeah. It's like, "Please, my wife asked for it, please."
It's a bit. I'm not sure I can explain it to you, but it's a bit.
It's like, "Hey, please, my wife wanted this. It's her birthday. So please, let me do this." Um, but yeah, so another thing that I really like about the boiled one is, well, the video doesn't really have a traditional plot. It creates a narrative through implication. Like it makes the viewer
Yeah.
feel like they're watching something that's forbidden or wrong. Like it's very cryptic. it leaves a lot of its horror up to the imagination, and it uses, like, subtle and effective jump scares that rely solely on psychological tension, distorted visuals, and audio rather than being, like, traditional loud noises or, like, these fast cuts. Because you could tell everything's kinda, like, pieced together by hand, and I feel like that works very well with how he builds, like, a suspense with, like, a slow, unsettling atmosphere and subverting the expectations by delaying that scare of using sudden visual and audio distortions, and it's based all on proximity-based fear. So when
Yeah,
the figure of the boiled one suddenly appears closer, it creates, like, this jarring, intimate threat that's really just ugh,
and he gets close fast.
fast. It's it's so fucking creepy. It's
He just
awful.
pops right in there, up right up in your face.
Dude, like, oh my god, you know what? After this, I wanna watch the fucking boiled one again. It's so fucking good. We need to go out, like,
It's
what?
serious.
After we, do this, we need to, like, watch that video again. I'll just
Yeah,
put
we
the
should.
fucking YouTube stream because I fucking love it so much.
Yeah.
So, why is analog so effective, James? Why do you think analog's so effective at being fucking creepy as hell and jump scary and jumpy?
Analog's very good at making you feel a part of the horror because of
Mhm.
the fact that oftentimes it already is talking about the fact that a lot of times it does notice the viewer, and the horror comes less from characters on screen being ripped apart or characters on screen being afraid, you getting that fear by proxy, but the fear gets translated directly to you. It's not someone in the film that's being threatened, it's you, the viewer, that's being threatened.
Yeah.
And that's really good, in my opinion, at really driving that terror because even though you know it's irrational, that can't get me, it makes you check around the corners of your room to make sure there's nothing really looking at you at that moment.
Mhm. I feel like that's, the thing that, Mr. Cargyle in that quote that I read earlier was talking about how, like, for, like, an amount of time you wanna believe that that monster is real. I feel like Analog, when it's done well, especially when you apply it to, like, the boiled one, makes you feel like that is the case, like, the boiled one is out there,
Yeah,
and I think it's done very well. Especially when you think of, like, the use of retro technology, it taps again into, like, that uncanny valley of, like, media nostalgia because, I feel like a lot with, like I don't like trends very often. I think they're kinda stupid personally, but I'm not gonna bash anyone if that's kinda like your cup of tea. But I feel like there is when you have trends that kinda are a big thing in a certain amount of time, I feel like a big think of why analog works so well is because, most often or not, they utilize those trends into their videos.
yeah,
'Cause, everyone loves fucking nostalgia of whatever, specifically media nostalgia, and I again, their their use of, like, their technology, they utilize their technology, they utilize their resources, and they make it to cater that nostalgia. So, like, those older formats, those broadcast styles, they evoke feelings of, like, that comfort and that alienation that makes people feel so unsettled. And in
yeah.
that go ahead.
They get very creative with forcing that alienation, giving you something familiar, and then just ripping it from you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like the unpredictability of the jump scare in that analog, often taking place in seemingly mundane settings, it amplifies the sense of dread, and I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah, I agree.
So, um, but yeah, one thing before we get going, I kinda wanna just talk a little bit, do like a little game, because everyone loves games. So, see if I can pull it up while I'm waiting. So, there is a also from our good friends at where'sthejump.com. They have graciously provided a list of a bunch of jump scares that have been like movies with like the most amount of jump scares in them. Which there's some movies with a lot in there.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna have you list a few of them, and so I have a big list. They're not really organized, but I'm gonna have you look at some videos, and I'll tell you how many jump scares that they got. We'll do a few of them, and I'll go through the rest of them. So go, my disciple.
I don't actually have that list.
No, I'm making you to guess them. It won't be much
Out
of a game if I have you have the list.
out of all horror movies?
Just list movies, and I'll tell you if they're on this list.
Let's see.
Any movie you want.
The Nun.
The Nun. Let's see. I think they do have it, alphabetized. Look at that. Let's see. Where is T? Uh, you do have some Conjuring movies. We have The Conjuring, and then Conjuring 2. So I'll give that to you. So The
All right.
Conjuring from 2003, both were made by James Wan, who I actually happen to share a birthday with. Really funny.
Yeah, that's
Um,
funny.
mhm. At least I think so. I know he's somewhere in February. I gotta double check. But Conjuring has 12 jump scares, with The Conjuring 2 having 22.
Hmm, ain't that something?
Mhm. Alright. What else you got?
James Wan, born February 26th.
February 26th?
Yeah,
Happy birthday. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, The Nun is on here. It has 21 jump scares.
yeah. That movie was one of the ones that kind of reused it.
Yeah. Alright. Um, what else you got?
Exorcist, sticking with religious horror.
The Exorcist? No, that's definitely on this list. I literally just saw it. I think I did? Maybe? It's actually not on this list.
Surprising. That doesn't
Mhm.
have any real jump scares, though, does it? Except for Pazuzu randomly showing up occasionally.
Yeah, they're not on I don't see it on this list, unfortunately.
Friday the 13th, like I was talking about earlier.
Friday the 13th, I think I did I honestly oh, yep, Friday the 13th, specifically the 2009 one has 23.
Hmm, let's see. How many does Scream 1 have?
Scream, which one?
Scream 1.
It's not on this list, but Screams 2 and 3 are on here. Both Screams made by Wes Craven. Scream 2 has 19, while Scream 3 has 23.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about Chucky. There's that one specific jump scare in there that is one of my favorite jump scares in all of media. Is the bit where
Which
Andy's
Chucky movie?
Chucky, like
Child's Play?
the very first Child's Play.
It's not on this list.
Yeah, that has my favorite horror movie where Andy's mom uh realizes the batteries drop out of the Chucky box when she's going to throw it away, and just the very first time you're watching that, your heart fucking drops out when you see
Oh,
that
yeah, when it doesn't
goddamn
have the
battery
batteries
pack
in it?
fall, and you're like,
Oh,
"Oh, fuck." And then she finally picks him up, turns around, opens the thing, and Chucky just snaps his smart ass head around, just goes, "Hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play?"
I know, that's so
Yeah.
fucking creepy, it's so good.
It's even better because they turn up the audio for his dialogue in that section too. Like, he's
I love it.
notably louder when he whips his head around.
It's so good.
God, I love Chucky. He's my favorite killer in any horror movie.
She's awesome. Alright. Any other ones you wanna guess?
Hmm. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, I gotta put an A, I gotta do the full one. It is not on this list.
Hmm, that's surprising. Let's see. Let's see. What about Midsommar?
It is not on this list.
I'm missing a bunch of these. Let's try one more. Alien.
Alien is not on this list.
Damn. Well, I missed a lot of these.
So I'll just read them in order. So we have A Quiet Place, which has 14. I'll tell there's a lot of them I don't even know of. I'll read the ones that are more popular. We have Annabelle Comes Home, which has 20. Annabelle Creation has 23. We have Blair Witch that has 18. The original Candyman with 16. We have Dead Side 15. We have Drag Me to Hell with 23. Evil
That
Dead.
Drag Me to Hell is very good.
And I've been needing to see. Evil Dead, Fidel Alvarez's Evil Dead has 20. Evil
I
Dead
really like
2,
that one.
fucking love Fidel Alvarez. He has my respect after the
He's
amazing
great.
movie of Alien Romulus that he did.
He's a
He's
great
also just
filmmaker.
really good in general.
Yeah, I like that guy a
Yeah,
lot.
Evil Dead 2 has 27. Um, n- so Exorcist: The Beginning has 17. Not, I know, I fucking hate that stupid fucking movie that I hate with a burning passion. That goddamn Flatliners movie has fucking 20. I hate how
Flatliners.
I fucking hate that movie. Oh, oh, I hate it. God, I fucking hate that movie. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about how much I hate that movie. Um, Freddy versus Jason has 24.
That
I
movie's
guess
hilarious.
fucking it's
I completely
great.
unironically love Freddy vs. Jason. It's just
It's,
fun to watch.
it's great. Friday the 13th, like you said, you guessed that one has 23. We have House of Wax of 16, Insidious 24, Insidious Chapter 2 of 22, Insidious Chapter 3 with 15, and then Insidious The Last Key with 15. Um, it the new remake of It has 23, It Chapter 2 has 24, Lights Out has 19, Ouija, what has Ouija, whatever you want to call it, has
Wedgie board.
16. Ouija board. The wedge. Have you seen the
Wow,
Ouija board?
whiteboard.
The Ouija board.
Can you burn
Origin
a
of
Ouija
Evil
board?
has 18. Paranormal Activity 3 has 20. Paranormal Activity 4 has 21. Paranormal Activity The Ghost Dimension has
There's a lot of paranormal
29.
activities movies.
Yeah, 29. So far, Paranormal Activity The Ghost Dimension has the most at 29. Uh, So we have Poltergeist, the extended cut has 22. Poltergeist, the theatrical cut has 21. Resident Evil, the final chapter, also has 29. So that's counted. That's like, even with Paranormal Activity. I didn't realize this existed until now. Actually, apparently there's something called Sonico 3D 1 and 2. They're both tied at 15.
Oh, I forgot there is more than just the original Ringu that has a lot of
Mm,
Sadako in it. Sadako
mm.
actually, if you've ever gone into how she is in the books, she turns into like the Goku of horror movie villains. It's hilarious.
I fucking love her.
She's powerful as shit in the books.
Hell yeah. We already guessed the Screams. Scream 2 at 19, Scream 3 at 23. We have Silent Relation, which has 22. Sinister 1, who is at 17. Sinister 2 has 19. And Medieval Horror has 16. We have The Conjurings that you've guessed, number 1 at 12, number 2 at 22. We have The Curse of La Llorona at 20. We have The Descent at 16, The Descent Part 2 at 20, The Evil Dead at 22. We have two of the Grudges, the 2004 Grudge at 23, the 20 Grudge at 19, and we have Haunting in Connecticut of 26. We have The Haunting in Connecticut, The Ghosts of Georgia, 32 jump scares, which is so far the most we've seen on this list.
Yeah. Holy shit, 32. Just bam,
32.
bam, bam, bam. Jump scare, jump scare, jump scare.
We're almost done. We are at The Strangers with 16, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with 6. um, and then we have Urban Legend with 17. And then that's it. So far, in Connecticut 2, The Ghosts of Georgia has a record of 32 jump scares.
Jesus Christ,
That's
that's a
that's
lot of
fucking
fucking
a
jump
lot.
scares.
32 is a lot. Um, that's a lot.
Jesus Christ.
That currently holds the record. So, yeah, that concludes our jump scare.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun going into the history of jump scares and the origin of them. I wasn't expecting to see a movie about cats and being a werecat be the one that created jump scares.
Oh, come on, James. It's not a cat movie. It's a movie about a sexually frustrated werepanther.
Werecat,
Get it
yeah.
right.
Like a fucking
Ah,
werepanther. I'm
James.
sorry, it wasn't even a werecat, it was a were fucking panther.
It's a werepanther, James. And she's sexually frustrated. She need that dick.
Oh my
um,
god. That's a wild
before we
concept for a movie.
I know, I fucking no, they're legit, it's a great movie. It's awesome, I
I
love
need to
it.
watch that at some point. I loved House, and you recommended House.
Dude, I recommended that shit to Luna. Like, I
House.
sent her the trailer and I was like, "Dog, you have to fucking." Oh, and I have a thing to talk about you, but, I'll talk about it to you after we end the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I'm not gonna have these poor people listening to my stupid conversations. But yeah, anything you wanna add, James, about the art of the jump scale before we end
Not
it?
particularly. I am happy to see that people are more accepting of them because I used to hear a lot of people talking about how much they despise jump scares, but honestly, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm glad
I
people
feel
seem to
like
like them now.
yeah, I feel like it really depends on, like, how I feel like if they're utilized and executed well,
Yeah.
that makes a big difference.
Jump scares that aren't actual proper scares always frustrated me. Like
I know.
which is funny because that's the origin of jump scares.
I know, like, literally, what
The
the
first
fuck?
jump scare would have just made me mad.
Yeah, literally. It's yeah, the fucking bus is loud, though, Jesus.
Just
Yeah, basically. Dude, honestly, your fucking thing that you just did scared me. I wasn't expecting you to just go, "Bang." Sorry, I had to take the opportunity.
Get that bitch!
Which ah!
Go!
Fucking oh gosh, it's the best movie I've ever seen, but so good. Fucking God. Fucking Texas Chainsaw Next Generation.
Oh my god.
I recommend if you need a stupid movie, fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Such a stupid fucking movie, but it's so good.
It's painful to
Fucking
watch, but it's
Matthew,
funny.
so painful, but God, Matthew McConaughey holds that movie. He
Yeah,
is
Matthew
that
McConaughey's
movie.
character is my favorite thing about that movie. I
He is that movie.
I love that character so much. His character doesn't even make sense, but he's funny. I just like watching
I
him.
know.
That's
So
what a lot.
fucking good.
That's how easy it is to get me on board with a character. Is they just have to be fun to watch.
Yeah. I do this all the time sometimes. It's so fucking stupid.
He's jumping off a roof, landing on a car.
Yeah, literally, like, no, he does, like, a fucking tuck and roll, like a flawless execution of a tuck and roll off
Yeah,
this fucking car. It's great.
it's so good.
And then the fucking plane. Ah,
Fucking plane swoops down out of fucking nowhere and fucks up Vilmer. What the fuck?
what the fuck? There's a lot of fucks, James. You might wanna shut the fuck up, man.
I'm only quoting James Agent. He's
And
the man
the
himself.
man himself, the man who you happen to share a fucking name with.
Oh yeah,
Well, we might just have to start calling you Janice James then.
get hit with a cease and desist from Dead Meat.
You cease and desist. You
Alrighty.
know, James, do you think we need to change your name?
Nah, I'm fine with my name, Gene James.
Or should we talk or should I from this point on in the podcast, should we refer to you as Michael Myers Gaming?
I love the fact that I have that officially set to Discord.
Or Trudge Bag? Or fucking what else? What's the other bullshit that you've named yourself? Jimmy Fallon? I don't fucking know.
So
What you've
loads of
done
stupid names.
loads of stupidness. What if I just call you just Alright, okay, end it off. End this episode.
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah, there's
stay
no way I'd be
spooky.
able to hold that. Huh?
Fucking stay spooky. Fucking
Hey! Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for tuning in for our jump scare episode. I hope you enjoyed all that information. I hope that we have opened your light to the art of the jump scare.
yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed everything.
Yeah. Well, have a good evening, everybody. I hope that you all are doing well. And to
Yeah,
our fellow Floridian folk, I hope that you guys are doing well in recovery of the fucking hurricanes. The two hurricanes that we've had back to back. I hope that if you've been in an area that was heavily affected, that you have a safe and speedy recovery back to
yeah.
normalcy. We hope that you get everything that you need. And yeah, because we feel for you. Because fucking Florida, apparently we've done something to piss off Poseidon. So
Yeah, they're a little irritated with us right now.
yeah, just a little bit. So, yeah, that's all we really got. So, yeah, have a good night, day, wherever you are, whatever time zone that you reside in. Have a good one and stay spooky.
Stay spooky, friends.
Mm.
Ah! Jesus Christ.